want,
Whose name?
Is there anything on here?
it
about
comes off of Tamarack.
Oh.
It goes through,
Probably geological survey.
Oh, yeah. Who's that? Is it somebody asking us the name?
Well, they asked Pearson.
Rick.
Pearson is gonna stay neutral. New Haven.
New Costa. Because it's the road that it's on. Well, that and up Shit's Creek without a paddle.
Is there any, so what's our role in
We just get to
deciding?
give
He wanted
comment.
Chich because
Just
they
asking
say
for
the
the
comments
comments.
about creek in, where was this at?
Oh.
In the packet.
I wondered.
I don't think that'd be my first
choice, I guess.
In April
I thought it was
or in
something
August,
else.
I missed it.
Yeah,
But this time on the email.
right.
Yeah, what was the
I guess you can just give comment.
justification behind it?
It's creek and
Creek
ditch.
and ditch, yeah.
So that society today, then that, I think, but we'll see.
Call the meeting to order at Smontcalm County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, November 25th. We'll begin with a pledge, and I'd invite you to remain standing for the invocation, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice Chairman Mahar.
Please remain standing. I'd like to mention or introduce Pastor Ross from Nevins Lake. He's going to bless our meeting with a prayer.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge that you alone are God, that you made everything, and that everything belongs to you. We thank you for your goodness, for your kindness, for providing for us everything that we need and more. We thank you for the celebrations, the times that we'll have with our families this week. We pray for this meeting tonight, pray that you would give wisdom to our commissioners, that you would bless them as they make decisions that are in accordance with your will. I pray that you would help them as they continue to seek the welfare of the people who live in this county. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Baker,
Present.
Johnston,
Here?
Peterson,
Yes, ma'am.
Painter,
Here.
Mahar,
Here.
Carr,
Yes,
and Murray.
Here.
everyone's here on tonight's agenda. I don't have any changes. Does anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston.
I would move to approve our agenda as presented.
Support. It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion. Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Does everyone have a copy of last month's meeting minutes, November 12th, 2024? Comments, questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston.
I would move to approve our minutes from the November 12th, 2024 regular board meeting as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the meeting minutes, the last regular meeting, November 12th, 2024 as presented. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments.
Got this many people here and no public comments?
Wow.
We are getting popular, guys.
If there's no public comments, our 405 agenda item is a public hearing for the purpose of an appeal to the construction ordinance. I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported to go into a public hearing for the purpose of an appeal to the construction ordinance. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're in a public hearing for the purpose of a appeal to the construction ordinance. Is Ann Hawkins badge with us? Yes, ma'am. If you want to come up here. Mike, you're welcome to come up as well, or wherever you want to sit, whatever's more comfortable for you. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
If you could just give us a little background or what the overall gist of this appeal is?
The overall gist of the appeal is I'd like to add a single-story garage to my current existing residence. The residence is located on Alma Street in Crystal, Michigan. I am within the building codes with regards to the property lines. Where I'm asking for the variance is the building code 10 feet associated with the right-of-way of the road, not of the property lines. I have no neighbors to the north or south of me. It is for the road that I'm here.
Okay. So we're all good on the sideline setbacks, Mike? And it's just the road, the distance from the road is the kicker here?
Yeah, she's not really encroaching. If you have that, probably that's in your packets. I believe that one right there. That's our GIS model. The map shows it's really not encroaching on neighbors. It's just that right of way that we're concerned about. Obviously, she's not going to hit the setbacks. That's why she's here for a variance, because it appears like it's going to be a 28 by 34 right to the edge of that right of way. So I guess it's up to you guys on that one, but if you do approve it, we just ask that there's a survey mark there or surveyed that front line so we can make sure it's not built on the right of way.
Does this have a jurisdictional thing with the road commission at all? Do they have any say or care?
I don't believe so, because that's just a right of way. It's not a county maintained road, is it? I guess.
Mr. Carr, before I went through this process, the building code department reminded me and asked me to go down and talk to the road commission, which I did. And I talked to the engineer down there and he goes, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
So that is his verbal. And I indicated that in my appeal letter. He also offered his telephone number to discuss it with anyone. So he did not have any objections to it. I also want to bring to your attention, there are only two people who live on the road, myself and Mr. and Mrs. Rees. So that's it. We're not a major road.
Okay. Questions?
What is the right of way that it's encroaching on? Is it Ann Street or
It's I'm sorry, sir.
is it Ann Street or?
It's Alma Street that's
or
encroaching
Alma-
on. And it is the 10-foot according to section 5 in your building code, which basically states, so you have to be 10 foot from the road right away. So that's what is that correct, sir?
That is correct. Yep.
So that's what I'm asking the variance for.
This road hasn't been maintained for years. Matter of fact, until they bought the property and stuff, it was a driveway basically. And let's say the road was never officially closed, but it was never maintained or anything. It's still basically a driveway back to their house. The neighbor's house is all it is.
Exactly.
Sure. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
Ann and I discussed my very lengthy normal statement during this time. So she's aware of while I agree with her being able to do whatever she wants on her property, I'm going to vote no because I believe that Crystal needs her own zoning.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't remember it yet. I couldn't remember what statement that was.
We've got so many of them.
Mr. Chair, this I don't even believe would go to a township zoning. This would have to be something the road commission would handle, even if they had zoning there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it being a road
Absolutely.
problem.
Based on the research that I did, again, as I was talking to Mr. Johnson and Mr. Peterson before the meeting, that the research I did was obviously towards the southern part of the state. And when there's an unincorporated township, it comes up to the county to make a decision on the road because this is not a city road. This is maintained by the county. And seeing as the building department was kind enough to say, go talk to them first, and they didn't object, that's why I'm here.
Sure. We are in a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that has a comment or question related to this variance request?
I'd move to come out of the public hearing.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
It seems like on the scale of how many of these we may have goofed up in the past, this one's pretty simple.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnston.
I would move to grant this variance request as presented to us.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported to grant the appeal offered up by Ms. Hawkins Badge as presented. Discussion.
Commissioner Chair. I concur somewhat with Adam. I mean, I would love to see Crystal Township be able to handle it. I will vote for it, but I would like on the record that I would like to see Crystal Township handling this stuff.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
If Commissioner Murray saying that gets him to do it, I'm going to be very upset. Just saying. Just saying.
You got more swing.
Yeah, I know it.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
haven't voted yes on that one. Throw you guys a curveball.
Yeah.
What?
Our 4:15, we're about 5 minutes early. Are you waiting for your fourth or are you set to go?
We
Okay.
got 4.
They had 4 listed.
Yeah.
Jim wasn't here. I don't know if they're waiting on him. So.
Yeah, he didn't say he wasn't coming. He may have forgotten about it.
We have the Montcalm County Opioid Task Force with a 2025 request.
You have to bring
You
him
can
to the
bring-
table.
you can bring it-
Bring him up.
He talks more than most of the people that come up here.
He wants to get a better look at us.
Sounds like Peter.
I'm kidding, making more noise.
Sounds like Peterson.
Chris, you're welcome to come up as well. It's up to you.
You are gonna have to sign. He's gonna have to sign a waiver with the newspaper though, because it's probably gonna get in the paper.
I can stop this up.
Good afternoon. We're members of the Montcalm Opioid Distribution Task Force. We were put in place by the board 2 years ago, and our purpose is to review applications for those requesting money for distribution of money that is assigned or allocated to Montcalm County. We review applications, and we have done that this year, and then we make, our purpose is to make recommendations to the board. Our task force is made up of those who have an interest in healthcare, in being providers, have interest in the community. We are represented by the school district. I represent the health department. We represent local county, local providers, the Sheridan Hospital, Cornwall Health. And together, we have made some recommendations, and we'd like to talk about them to you today and make our recommendations known.
Okay.
I believe in your packet, you also have that we're touching base on what was funded for 2024 as well. We had done a review of those approximately mid-year and found that a lot of organizations were having some of the same struggles, trying to find the right quality of candidates within the spaces that we're occupying. I believe that Randy's House was one that had to pivot from doing an engagement center from the ER to more of a drop-in, so more accessible to more patients. And so we'll be following up on how they've done in the rest of their year. Some of us had issues with being able to promptly find, the appropriate channels to get applications and job postings up through, but things are up and running with all of the programs that were funded last year.
Okay.
In 2023, it was the first time in the United States since 2019 that we've seen a reduction in overdoses from opioids, which is huge. It was about a 10% reduction. And a lot of that is being attributed to nationwide, the funding of naloxone, more easy access for treatment, and more community awareness, and as well as stigma reduction. Michigan has seen a slightly better than 10% reduction, although I believe our numbers for overdose deaths within 2023, so Q3 of 2022 to Q3 of 2023 was still about 16 people. So we don't have the updated information for how 2024 data has been. Likely that will come at the beginning of 2025. With all of that in mind, we had about 13 applications this time around, and a lot of them were very strong contenders. We set forth to fully approve multiple applications that were set before us including the continuation of recovery coaching for Corewell Health, a normalized naloxone project, as well as a school education project through the health department. School education was a piece that was missing last year. And for Corewell Health, the continuation of recovery coaching is also connecting with the piece that we didn't have, which is more access for wraparound services for people who are pregnant and with small children in the community. We also decided to fund the MAC again. They had been excellent stewards of our funding last year. Last year, they had requested just a little under $8,000, and with that, they significantly increased their footprint. So they increased meetings, they increased accessibility. And so this is to hope with a partial funding for their operational expenses and the supplies and marketing that's needed to continue to promote themselves, to see that they're continuing to demonstrate being good stewards of this increased amount. We have funded we've requested to fund Montcalm County Jail as they begin their project to provide medication for opioid use disorder within the jail. That is where corrections departments at large are going, and Montcalm County has been behind what some of our neighboring counties has done. So this is excellent to be able to get this up and running. In the Montcalm Prevention Collaborative, they want to be able to address stigma within the county. And one of the ways that they identified to do that was with gas station TV. And they also had requested to fund an event, but we decided in order to be good stewards, we want something that's connecting with as many people as possible for the best value possible. We would like to approve Randy's House for their recovery coach and also for recovery housing scholarship. As people are leaving higher levels of treatment and needing to get additional support as they are getting their feet underneath them and looking to find jobs and become members of the community, housing is something at large that our community is sorely lacking. We also would request to continue working on the expansion of medication for opioid use disorder services through Sheridan Hospital. They've recently hired their LMSW and recovery coach, and they've also been working to provide an injectable option of medication for people who don't have insurance at all, which is a piece that I don't believe any other organization in the community is doing. And Outreach 419, which has been a really wonderful place for the recovery community to be engaging in more than just meetings, but working to build community socialization and connecting back within the community at large. We would request to fund them partially, about $20,000. I'm open to all questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions? How many more are, well, we can do it in dollars. How's this compare in dollars to what you allocated a year ago?
Quite similar in terms of dollars. I think we're pretty much right
Did
on.
201,000 last year.
Yeah. So
Remind me how much we bring in to allocate.
I believe it's about 220.
Well, it comes in, it doesn't come in even allotments. I think we've received over 700,000, but some of those cases were for the first 5 years, some were for 2 years, some were for 3 years. So over the course of the 18 years, what was the total? Like 2.3 million or 3.2 million, something like that. But when you divide it over 18 years, the folks at MAX, the opioid Gallup MAC, suggested that we only spend 1/18 of it every year, which is about that number.
So we have a surplus, but we're trying to spread it out over the 18 years,
It
correct?
would be wise to, just because some years we might not get an allotment.
Yeah. I think most of the people who are trying to do the settlements are trying to settle ahead of time.
Yeah. a lot of them are.
And so a lot of times what we'll see is that everything is distributed up front, and then there'll be less and less as each year goes on, likely.
Mhm.
So I only have two other questions. One, I guess is for you guys, gas station video education. I guess, does that mean like the little videos on the gas pump?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And then for Randy's house, I seem to remember there being an ask for Randy's house to this board in years past. And we have said no to that.
Said yes.
What's that?
You said yes last year.
Okay. Just making sure. I just remember there was a little contention at one point, but if that has
He was
been,
asking for ARPA dollars then.
yeah, I think you're right.
Different money.
No, I think if we're getting the money, I think we need to I think we need to distribute it to these kind of programs. It's great work. I'm sure you guys spend a lot of time on that. It's fine. He actually says a lot more smarter things than I do, so he's doing just fine. I was gonna throw him my little Bernie Sanders doll, but I didn't know if he'd like it.
He would eat its hair off right away.
Oh, we won't do that then. But yeah, I think this is a great, the money coming in is for a purpose, and this is a great use of it, so.
And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I'm assuming the next 5 are ones that you'd like to consider us funding as well, but out of the marijuana money.
Yeah, I don't know if not all of them are ones that we're putting forth,
Okay.
supporting.
I didn't put the 2 on there that
Okay.
we didn't.
Then yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
those are
and
the
what you
ones
have
we are.
before you as far as items that we felt very strongly need additional funding and support. But knowing that we have to pick and choose what the most priority is for the monies that we have.
Sure.
And especially in light of some of the continuations of funding that we put forth last year.
Okay.
We were looking to have unique opportunities to find funding for them so that those programs can also be successful.
So with the first one on that list, that's the drug court out here,
Mm-hmm.
which they did ask last year and we turned them down because we give them marijuana money. We have the last 2 years. They're wanting to hire another person, though, a full-time person, which is a little bit outside of what they've done in the past. So,
So that slate of contenders totals about 166,000,
mhm.
and we've got enough in the marijuana fund or the revenue from that to
Yes. Yep.
do those as well.
So we've brought in over 900,000 in the marijuana fund the last 4 fiscal years. And to this point, we've paid out 456.5 because we gave back 200,000 for the last 2 years to the communities and the drug court fund. And then we committed 56.5 in October to community corrections.
And I think we've talked for 2 years now about finding a better way to spend marijuana money. I think this is a
Yeah.
great way to do it.
So we've got 465 left. So it only uses a third of
Do we need a motion to approve all of them at once, or do you want it split up?
it. Ask Chris. What do you want, Chris?
Does she?
Yeah, scroll up.
Well, I would move to accept the 2025 opioid funding proposals recommended by the Opioid Task Force Committee for disbursements as presented.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried.
would also move to authorize the use of marijuana tax funding to fund other proposals and disbursements as presented by the committee. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion.
It's just because they had such a good salesman.
He needs to come every time.
Just like Johnston just said, the fact that she could rattle off all those facts while juggling a kid, just.
He's a very good multitasker.
If there's no discussion on the second motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
He's waiting.
He's happy.
I knew he was serious when he slammed his hand down on the table right away.
Just trading it for local government.
There you go.
Up next is correspondence. Vice Chairman Mahar, please.
All right, item 1 for your consideration, found on page 14, is a request by the Walcott family. They have 7 parcels that they are applying to be put into a PA 116 farmland agreement. The Conservation District and West Michigan Regional Planning Commission have both weighed in favor of the applications. There are 7 total parcels found in sections 10, 16, 20, and 21 of Bushnell Township. So I will move to approve the Walcott family's application for the PA 116 program with the 7 parcels that they have presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the 7 PA 116 agreements offered by H. Walcott Family Farms LLC. All parcels are in Bushnell Township. Discussion.
They are in attendance if we need anything from them today.
Pardon?
They are in attendance today, I
Okay.
believe. I think so. I think they're right there. You're the Walcotts? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I thought they were.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, item number 2, all the way on page 104 of your packet, has to do with naming of a small creek that runs off of Tamarack. We have a letter from the developer, and apparently they have been communicating with several municipalities on possibly naming this unnamed creek. I think the family has a proposal of Chitch Creek, which is that's CHITCH, which in the correspondence that we have, it says that it's a combination of creek and ditch because they feel like it's kind of like a ditch. So a few government bodies have weighed in on this. Apparently, this creek goes through Pearson and Ensley Township, as well as Newaygo and Montcalm County. The Newaygo County Board of Commissioners have weighed in that they would like to see it called New Costa Creek. Apparently, the New Costa Road kind of runs, I think, parallel or somewhat in the area of this creek. Ensley Township, it's my understanding, has weighed in that they are good with the Chitch Creek name. Pearson Township has said that they have no desire to weigh in on this one way or another. So we are asked to essentially weigh in on if we have an opinion on either of these 2 names. Basically, New Costa, Chitch. We could continue to leave it unnamed, or we could maybe throw another name in there. I don't know. So what is the board's pleasure with Chitch Creek / New Costa Creek?
What would one do if they went up said creek without a paddle?
You
I
tell
mean,
me.
is it deep enough to paddle? That's what I'm asking.
Is it navigable?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can navigate it.
I think it's a pretty loose play on what we're all thinking. I mean, I don't know. It seems a little silly, but who cares? I don't. It just doesn't make any difference to me. If I ever run across Chitch Creek, I'll try and go up it without a paddle, and I'll report back to you guys.
The state of Michigan has a pretty rigorous process to approve vanity plates and look at everything that's submitted about 5 ways from Sunday to try and avoid anything that remotely might offend someone or whatever. I personally think that we could benefit from being a little bit more of a civilized society than what we've gotten to in the last 5 years. So this wouldn't be my first choice, I guess.
I would think we just don't weigh in at all. What's it going to affect anything?
The fact that there's no Montcalm in the name.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with not weighing in either. I was just. Yep. Do we need a motion to not weigh in? Or that we have no
Or just place it on
preference?
file,
Okay,
and I would indicate that you took no.
no preference. Okay, perfect. All right, I'll move to place item 2 on file.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported to place item 2 on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 3 on 108 is a request from Eric Smith. In October, he brought before us the initial work agreement for approval for the EMPG grant. Other than a little less money, everything is the same as last year. The approval is due by December 3rd. He did make a note here that even though we'll be going into fiscal year 25, that the MPG grant is always a year behind. So with that being said, I will move to allow for signatures and submission of the fiscal year 24 EMPG grant.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, on page 139, you'll see a request from Brenda. Brenda spoke with Nathan Erber from Western Michigan University on November 19th. I think they had some sort of conference call, a video call. It appears that Mr. Erber and Western Michigan University would like to update our geology map. And he has requested that he have the ability to bore into, I believe is it 5 of our county parks? Is that right?
Yep.
To get soil samples. After obtaining the soil samples, he would then seal off the core hole with bentonite when finished. This would allow him to get a more accurate, I guess, knowledge of what type of geology we've got going on beneath the surface in various areas of our county.
They would finish it off with what?
Well,
Tonight.
Bentonite is what they
Bentonite?
seal up a well with after they're done a well. Just so
Sounds explosive.
To what
surface
end?
water doesn't get into the,
like how deep?
No,
Or-
what's the point?
Yeah.
Just to make more accurate geological maps. So these documents that are on your table here, that's stuff that he sent in on Friday. Where you look at.
Nothing to do with like ground quality or anything. What is it? And where?
It shows it'll show the different types of sediment and landforms as described in the map. Explanations, features such as drumlins, moraines can be used to reconstruct the movement and position of former ice sheets and its margins. Other landforms include shorelines and abandoned plains or former glacial lakes. And then the one in the packet is with a map of Allegan County that they've already done. Construction projects sometimes depend on those maps based, they gotta know what's under the ground before they put a road in, or a lot of heavy concrete for viaducts and that.
right where it talks about how deep they're going, I couldn't find
I
that.
did ask him that. He said 200 to 300 feet. Yeah, so that's what I
Very
got.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a 2-year project, but I think they started it last year. Because that map of Allegan was done in September of 2023, it says.
Why in county parks?
Well, I think they're just looking for access.
Yeah.
So I think
Oh,
we can come and give them access instead of going into a bunch of individual homes, I think.
Mhm.
And it's free.
I think outside of this, they'll probably contact some private individuals for more sites, but their
Yeah.
contact with us was
Just our properties.
places we had to offer them.
And
We did suggest underneath your house, Matt, but
he has reached out to some townships. He said he hasn't heard back from very many,
I was gonna say, that's probably what these gray dots are here is,
I guess, too.
what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker?
seems to me like this information might be valuable to someone down the road. I'll never use it, but I think probably some people use this information to do the right thing when they're building stuff. So I think it's important to follow up on it, especially if the cost to us is minimal.
I think it might be less than minimal. I think it might be zero.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Commissioner Baker. I guess I don't see any downside. Could be missing something.
we're just gonna have some big holes.
No, they'll be filled.
Filled with bentonite.
It's the same material they used years ago to cap all the wells that were open in the county. We didn't want open, we closed them. And that's what they put in there. Commissioner Johansson was responsible for locating and seeing that was done. I think maybe through the conservation department or someplace.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'll move to allow Mr. Nathan Erber and Western Michigan University to collect core samples from our county-owned properties in order to update the geological maps of Montcalm County.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 5 on your board correspondence, page 142, you'll find warrant report 111-42024 in the amount of $947,219.37. Item number 6 on page 151, you'll find warrant report 11212024 in the amount of $302,299.47. And item number 7, found on page 164, you'll find warrant report 11252024 in the amount of $2,654,860.60. Those 3 warrant reports have a combined total of $3,904,379 and is that 44?
Mhm.
44 cents. I will move to approve all 3 warrant reports as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve all 3 warrant reports totaling $3,904,379.44. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Items 8 through 11 are part of your consent agenda. I'll move to place those on file.
It's been moved and supported to place items 8 through 11 of the consent agenda on file. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Items 12 through 14 are for your information only. On page 242, item 15, you'll find a resolution from Iosco County. They oppose the bidding out of important services and would like to keep those services within area agencies on aging. That will complete your board correspondence for Monday, November 25th, 2024.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chairman Mahar. That ends correspondence. Up next is committee reports. We don't have anything. After that is new business. Item 1 is the Commission on Aging Director position. You have in your packet a letter from the controller with a recommendation for a desired motion. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Commissioner Peterson.
I'm sure this isn't going to sound exactly like I would like it to. None of my statements ever do, but I don't understand why out of 24 applicants, we're not interviewing any of them and we're hiring from within. That doesn't, I'm sure that this person, this candidate is, I mean, it shows that they have 13 years of experience, been the go-to person over the last 5 weeks. That's great. I guess I don't understand why post it if we were just going to hire somebody from within anyways.
Because that's policy. We're following policy.
Okay, so out of the 23 external applicants, there wasn't one that was worth a look.
There might have been 2.
So there would have been, effectively, if there was 2, then there would have been 3 people to interview, right?
Mhm.
I guess I thought it was always part of our procedure. We posted to hire, interviewed, and hired.
I don't remember doing that 2 years ago with animal control.
Because she wasn't a director at the time. Well, I guess that was after 3 people were hired. I'm just thinking about the last time we did this with Commission on Aging. I believe we did it with EMS. What other positions have we done it for? We did it for the controller position. It's just, it seems a little off brand for what we're trying to accomplish.
It's only been required since I've been the controller. Prior to me being the controller, people were promoted from within without going through the process.
It's only been required since you've been the controller to interview?
Mm-hmm. Interview in public.
Okay. So it is required to interview.
It's not required.
Oh, I thought you said it was.
You have held my feet to the fire and made me do it. But it wasn't done before that every time.
Okay.
The controller had asked me about it earlier in the week when she was putting the packet together, had indicated that in her judgment, this candidate internally was the best suited for this job at this time. Asked what my thoughts were on bypassing the interview process and recommending to hire her. I believe that's consistent with what we've done in the past. As recently as the animal control director being appointed. There's past Commission on Aging directors that were just promoted. But moreover, I guess the most recent conversation about the happenings at Commission on Aging seemed to be that no one was doubting the controller's experience or judgment in these matters as much as just having some correspondence to go along with it. So I believe that she's best suited to make that judgment call. I don't know that I am an expert on headhunting and finding the right person for this job. And so when she asked if this would be in line, I said, I believe it would. But again, it boils down to just like the last question. If this board desires to do it differently, it's completely your prerogative to do that. So this is a recommendation from the controller to make this appointment. If you're not comfortable doing that and you want to interview 2 people, 5 people, or all 24 people, it's completely the board's prerogative to do that. This is a starting point offer that the controller made to advance the cause.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker.
I was involved with the Commission on Agency for a number of years. I was in and out, talked to all the people out there. I think that this lady would do a fine job, and I think we should give her a chance. I would move to approve the promotion of Pamela Schock to the Commission on Aging Director position effective November 18th, 2024.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the promotion of Pamela Schock to the Commission on Aging Director position effective November 18th, 2024. Discussion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I wish we didn't have to have this conversation in public meeting, to be honest with you, because, and quite frankly, I wish this was done differently, because now I feel like we're forced to have this conversation in a public meeting. The bad part about this is that I think that this is more about giving Brenda direction than it is about Brenda at all. And I hate to even, I hate that it could be perceived that I'm questioning Brenda's decision on who the best person would be, because by no means am I doing that. I have no reason to doubt that this person is the best person. I do feel that it has to be best practice to have an interview process when we have an in-house candidate, especially when we just had a candidate who was let go under some situations that were not good. And there was a little bit of a small bit of controversy over that firing. And so I feel like to make sure that we are earning the public's trust and they know that we are doing things on the up and up and we're doing things in a fair manner, an interview process would be the right thing to do. When you simply hand the position to somebody who may or may not have been part of the other person's demise, it does give it gives a perspective to somebody from the outside that maybe there was more going on here than just a firing and then somebody else getting promoted. And so for this person to earn this position, I feel like it's most fair to them to make them go through an interview process with a couple other people and have them earn it. I just think it's the right thing to do. I mean, for the public, we had 20 some applicants. Why not bring a couple of those folks in to have them compete with our own person here and see who rises to the top? I mean, right now we don't know who those applicants are. Obviously Brenda does, and I trust Brenda. And so I don't want to say that Brenda did the wrong thing here at all, because I'm not saying she did. I think it should be best practice and that we should be directing Brenda in the future that these positions should be interviewed. I just think when you hand somebody a position, no matter how worthy they are, it could give the illusion that we're not doing things properly here.
I agree with you.
So that's just my 2 cents.
I wholeheartedly agreed 2 years ago, but that didn't happen 2 years ago. So
And I don't think Brenda suggested this on an effort to circumvent the process or shortcut anything else. I think she was doing exactly what we've laid out for her to do with her scope of authority.
I agree. I'm not criticizing Brenda one bit on this.
Why'd we do it different with the last Commission on Aging Director?
My guess is that there were applicants that
There was in-house applicants during that one too.
there was a closer match of people
because I
that
was the controller.
maybe needed to be interviewed. I don't,
When Bob was the controller, he did his interviews in private. That's how Ryan got the job. It was a private interview.
In the private sector, when they're interviewing for this level of a position, because I've done it before, when you interview for this level of position, I would always require, I always had to have 3 applicants or else I wasn't done with the process. And that was just, I'm not saying it has to be that way, but private sector, that's a pretty common practice when you're hiring for a director or a higher level of management position. That's pretty common practice. Whether they be internal or external candidates wouldn't make any difference.
And I guess it really hasn't prior made a difference to me whether they were internal or external candidates. I just don't like wasting people's time, is how I look at it. And I don't think the other two most qualified ones in the stack are gonna interview as well. To me, they just aren't they don't have any of the experience that she has.
Right, I think that's the other end of
That might be
the
a
opposite of
benefit.
this is that for speed, and, you know, the fact that you feel like we have I do understand that perspective. I really do. I just think that maybe as a board, we have to maybe develop some consistency to where either we're all good with this, or we say that we want to do, you know, some sort of interview process, competitive interview process with every director.
I just know that during the firing talks, it was, well, we're in charge of hiring, and then our controller can let go of at-will employees. That's fine. So essentially, this takes the hiring process to a different level of, this is who we're going to hire. We just need a motion. We're not in this process at all. We have no idea, outside of that they've worked for us, we have no idea who this person is. I'm not trying to I guess, get in the way of that. Outside of, we just bounce back and forth. Sometimes we do interviews. Now we're not doing interviews. I just don't, it is what it is, but I don't want it to be perceived as, well, the last person was canned, so to make room for this new person, and it's just a big good old boys club up here, and we're just willy-nilly doing anything we can to look like we don't know what we're doing. I think that this is a kind of a tossing it in the face of how we've done things in the past, but if Brenda's going to keep throwing around the animal control director, I'll concede that I had to step in and see if we could rehire our former director after 3 people had bowed out.
Well, if I'm going to correct you on that, because we didn't even have approval to hire a director at that point. I was still looking for an officer.
Okay.
But
So
I
3,
did have somebody online that could have started the next day.
okay. Whatever you say. I'm just saying that this looks gross.
I love consistency. I'm going to say that. I don't like doing things different ways, different times. But if we're going to be consistent, that means we all be consistent, and we be consistent every time the hiring is done. Not a willy-nilly this way one time and then this way the next time. So if you want to set something in writing and in stone, and this is how we're going to proceed, the only thing that's in stone or in writing right now is we have to post every opening for 3 days internally minimum. That is the minimum we have to do. Doesn't say we have to post it externally, doesn't say we have to take applications, doesn't even say we have to interview. So if you want something more a policy or a procedure, I'm fine with that, but
Loopholes are loopholes. I get it.
I don't like being held, my feet held to the fire when maybe the people behind me hadn't been. So
One of the things that Chairman Carr brought up is we've been talking about wage studies and things of that nature, and I think this ties into this, is that we want to make our county a better place to work. We want to be able to hire the right people, pay them appropriately, and maintain them over a long period of time. And I think that along with that, we have to have best practices for the hiring process as well. I think that those things all go together. And I'm not so much hung up on how we do it, but I do think it's important that we come up with something that we're going to do and then we stick to it. And I think that we can come up with something we all agree on.
I agree with, let's stick to it,
Yes, yeah.
all of us.
Yeah, this to me is not about this individual hire at all.
Right, right.
In fact,
Correct.
I trust Brenda that this would be a good person and I might even go for it, quite frankly. But I think going forward, we definitely have to figure out what we're going to do because it puts Brenda in a situation by situation where does she interview or does she, if she's got somebody, does she just hire? And so I just think that there needs to be some direction there and we stick with it. And I personally think that if we're hiring a director going forward, I think the best practice would be to have a competitive interview process.
In my opinion, I think hiring within is a good thing. It makes our people want to perform, want to be promoted. If we have qualified people, I'm all for hiring within, or promoting within and then backfilling with new people.
And I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But just because I think somebody's experience and time served, I think weighs in, but I don't think that should be the determining factor. I think the qualification to do the job should be the determining factor. And if they have the time with us as well, that's part of it.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with Pamela. I just have a problem with the process. And to say it's our fault, sure it is. But we did it a different way the last time. I don't know, 8 months ago when we hired a Commission on Aging director, we brought 3 people in here, interviewed them, selected from there. I guess I don't understand why it's not being done this time.
Yeah.
That's my whole hang up with the whole deal. Again, I'm in a tough spot because I want to vote no on this, but I don't want to instill in Pamela that I don't have any confidence in her. I think she'll probably do a great job.
She's in the room. If you'd like to ask her some questions, you could do an interview here.
Pamela, I didn't know what you look like. Sorry. So I'm sure this is a fun conversation to have to hear. So one question I do have for you is why didn't you apply 8 months ago?
She did.
She
You
did.
interviewed her.
We didn't interview her.
Yes, we
We
did.
Oh,
And
so we interviewed.
if we're gonna talk about getting to an interview process for this job, I don't think it's fair to put her on the hot seat in the public today.
Fair enough.
Prior to interviewing.
There's
3
already a
other
motion
people.
on the table, though. There's
Right.
no talking about getting to an interview process.
The motion could fail and
True.
then we could vote to interview 3 people. Meanwhile, you just ran Pamela through an open interview in front of everyone.
I
That's
asked
not-
one question and she didn't answer it.
Because I said timeout. I just
Okay.
want to back up. If we're contemplating going down a different road, I don't think it's fair to the process or Pamela to ask her questions here at this point.
Understood.
And to that, one of the arguments being made is that we are just looking horribly wrong because we let a department director go in lieu of hiring another person. This person was interviewed. If we wanted to do it that way, we would have hired her the first time around. That hire didn't work out. And now she's back up for the job. Out of the 24 applicants, the controller believes that she's far superior to any of those and recommended that we avoid the process of the interview and hire her. But if you don't want to do it that way, we can vote down the motion on the floor and pick whatever process you want to. I just want to be careful about giving Pamela an unfair advantage to the other people by interviewing.
That's fine. I was told to ask her questions because she's in the room.
I know you were, but
Sorry.
I would advise against that if you think we might go down a different road.
And I won't be offended if you want to do an interview process. I was all about cutting bait and
Yeah.
getting to work. So, and not wasting people's time.
I mean, I think for this situation, it may be, I think going forward, we probably need to look at a process. I don't know that this is the time to do it. Because it would be far less contentious up here if the process was well-defined. And we all knew what it was, and that's just, everybody knows what it takes. I think that going forward, that would be a better way to handle it. But for this situation, I think that, I mean, where we're at, my inkling is we probably would have all ended up voting for Pamela.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Baker.
I think it'd be a good idea to vote yes on this motion and let her show us how good a job she can do.
I'm going to call the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Still want the job?
Can't ask her that.
Don't come and ask for anything anytime soon.
Is there anyone that wants to offer up some kind of a plan going forward, a committee, a discussion at a future meeting, a motion right tonight that addresses this, or we want to just kick it around in the paper the next time it comes
Yeah, let's
up?
wait until we hire another director.
Hopefully I'll be on by then.
I think that a director level should have a competitive interview process with a hiring committee. So similar to what we did with the COA last time. I just think we'll take the
next fight will be who picks the committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I think there ought to be a committee of 2 or 3 commissioners that go for an all-day seminar to get it right.
Easy for you to say, you're leaving.
You bet it is.
Where's this at?
Well, Matt and Nate are going to Grayling on the 9th of December.
Yeah, we are.
Does anyone have anything further on that? If not, new business item 2 is clerk correspondence.
I don't have anything.
Number 3 is controller correspondence.
All right, you'll notice that I put your bylaws on your desk. So we'll have to approve a new set of those at your organizational meeting in January. So if you want to look those over and come back on the 16th to see if there's anything in there that you'd like changed or seen
I
differently.
can already see something that needs to be changed.
This compensation stuff and the dates all on the first page, I'll change.
Well, the term of the office now is 4 years. this time,
Oh, yeah.
too.
Yeah, that stuff I will change on the first page. Then there, you notice a new letter on your desk addressed to the governor. MAC is asking for all the commissioners in the state to support that revenue trust fund issue. So if you feel that you want to sign that and give it back to me, I'll send it back to MAC, but don't feel like you have to. And then the last thing we need to talk about, along with those 4-year terms, we have to set your salary for the next 4 years. That was a piece that came down with that new legislation. And I will have to bring a resolution back to the next meeting. And we've set it and it's not like the other electeds where it just has to be a minimum, but we can increase it over the time. We're setting it for the next 4 years. So the other components of electing a chair every 2 years and a vice chair every year, that did not change, so you will still do that. But for some reason, they decided that they wanted your salary set now by the end of this year for the next 4 years.
And 2025's been set in the budget
Yep.
process.
Yep.
So we need 26, 27, and 28.
And it can just be a percentage increase if you want to do, just say that.
What's your pleasure?
What percentage have we done in the years past? 2 or 3?
3 the last 4 years, I believe.
I think that's fair.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Baker.
Yep, my constituents think that the salaries are about correct where they are without any increases.
Yeah, you could do that too. Or you could keep them set for 2 years, then do an increase the last 2 years, or however.
Well, consistency would be to leave it like it is for 25.
So make it the same 25 through 28.
That'd be consistent.
My constituents think that I'm way underpaid.
Right.
So
How
maybe we
much-
could do individual.
How much did you pay him?
Oh, it was my wife.
Your most important constituent.
At 3%, we're talking about like $300 a year.
Yeah.
And that's consistent too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good compromise.
Doesn't really have a high opinion.
Is the 3% offering up to 3, does that conflict with our negotiating strategy at all?
No, because
Did the AFSMI contract for 3% for 4 years?
yeah, I think we're lucky if we settle on 3% most of the time nowadays.
Good.
We can do 2%. Doesn't matter to me.
I don't,
Much pleasure.
I think these are fair.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Sport.
It's been moved and supported to set the commissioner's salary for the next 4 years at a 3% per year as required by the new legislation.
What percent did you say?
3,
Discussion.
13, I mean.
If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right,
Motion carried.
I'll be back with that resolution next time. That's all I have.
Number 4 is chair board correspondence. I don't have anything. Does anyone on the board?
Chairman?
Yeah.
The only thing that I don't want this situation with the interviews to be forgotten. I'd like to get something, whether that's changing the bylaw or just giving some sort of, I don't know if it takes a motion just to direct. I just would hate to see us back in this situation. I'd like to see an interview process just to make sure that we're doing the same thing with every director hire. So
If you got a motion in mind, I think it would be appropriate timing to address that or throw one out there, but maybe
Yeah.
not.
Would it be appropriate to have the chair appoint a few commissioners to come up with what we think is a good process and then present it, make a motion, then?
I just, the only thing I don't know is, do we need to tweak our process or just say we're going to, this is the process? Do we have a process that we already have and just basically say we're going to use that process for every director level?
You
I
don't.
don't think we have a process.
So then I would say, to your point, I think that is a good.
I make a motion that the chair appoints a committee of no less than 3 commissioners to define a hiring process for director level.
I think you want to make it no more than 3, because no less than 3 would be, 4 would be a quorum of the board.
Or be that's right. No more than 3.
Okay. What's the timing of that happening?
The appointment? I mean, I'd say within
30 days.
I mean, we're going to do an organizational on January
That's what I
2nd,
was wondering. Is
Yeah.
that something that
Yeah, we
come
can do
up
it
with
first of the
that
year.
Process?
Yep.
Do you want to add that to your bylaws?
Okay.
That was a motion.
Support.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to have the chairman appoint a committee consisting of not more than 3 commissioners to come up with a process for hiring director level positions. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
I would think Brenda would be a part of that committee.
Yes.
On top of the 3 commissioners
Mhm.
and the controller. Okay. Discussion. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else in board correspondence? If not, old business is next. The only item is the wage study discussion. I'll start. Did you have a chance to give us a ballpark figure on what a sustainable dollar amount was to plow into the directors in their first in command or their second in command?
Yeah, that's a really tricky one.
So what I was asking the controller is just to give us a ballpark number of what she thinks is sustainable to put into this project. Because I've got a couple theories in mind, but I'd like to know how close I am on the spendable dollars and implementing that, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain these handouts I gave to you. So this one, the top one with the little red star out here on the right-hand side is just a repeat of the other one. The 2 stars indicate that I made a change. So for the equalization director, I was asked to reach out and see how many counties require level 4 versus a level 3. We only require level 3, so the only ones that are left in that average were the level 3. So you will notice it came down significantly. The other one was just our EMS director. I took his $10,000 stipend that he receives to be the emergency manager out just for, so it's based on his regular salary. So that's all that changed there. The smaller sheets, I removed all of the union folks. So these are just non-union people. And then I did what I was asked as far as calculating the average, then a 1%, 2%, 3%. I did take the average, 24 average column, added 3% to it to get it to a 25 average, because that's what everyone was giving, pretty much was 3% increases. So we were talking apples to apples. And then in the last column there is the our not necessarily our budgeted wage or salary, but our approved through the budget process this summer, all the way to the right there. Then the third one, the long one, is where maybe I'll answer your question about the dollars. So after I took all the union people out, I took everyone out that their already approved wage for 25 was over that purple 3%, that average plus the purple 3%. So I took all of them out. So what's left are these 2 pages of people that were under that.
In both the director and the second in command?
Not necessarily the director. Some departments came out altogether, like
Right.
Board of Commissioners, because you were
Yes,
over.
but any of those that are under this takes into consideration 2 people in each office?
Not necessarily. Register of Deeds, it was just the register, because for other 2 people in the office, what we are paying them in 25 already slated was over the purple column, the 25 average plus 3%.
Okay.
So they were already getting over that. So my assumption was we wouldn't give them more. So those highlighted numbers there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So the yellow is what the wage for that column would amount to for the first page is general fund, and then the second page is just a couple other funds. If we went with the green column over to the left that says 24 average plus 3% or 25 average, it's the first green column on the left there. So then if you look at that green column compared to the one right smack dab in the middle that says 2025 Montcalm wage and salary, the set of green columns that are more to the right would be the difference between those 2. So in order to, we'll just say, I'll take mine, that first row for my salary. So we already have a salary set at 126, 172 for myself for 25. The average for 25 came to 129, 736-ish.
Mhm.
So to get me to that 129 would take another $3,500. To get me to the coral colored column of 13103 would take 5,000, which is to get me to the blue column of 132,330 would take 6,000. To get me to the purple column of 133,627 would take about 7,500. So I tried to incorporate both Pat's desire as far as flat dollar amounts and Matt's desire on the percentage end. And that was what I came up with. So the highlight, the yellow highlight is the actual wage dollars. The gold highlight are the percentage-based benefits on top of that. What's what it would amount to. So that's your pension, unemployment, workers' comp, and then the employer's share of Social Security and Medicare.
Okay.
So with that all being said, I forwarded you that email about the child care fund and our rates, daily rates for some of our most challenged juveniles are quadrupling. So that means our appropriation to the child care fund will more than likely double. We do 600,000 right now a year. We're probably going to have to do to the tune of $1 million or more. But we have that bond coming due next May. That'll free up 900,000. So for me, that kind of takes care of that. The sheriff has been fortunate enough to seek out some new hires through another county's unfortunate of laying off officers. So he is under the assumption he is going to be full staffed here very soon. That is going to add another 560,000 back into the general fund. Deb did tell me that the CPI for next year's tax season is going to go up 3.1%. So that'll be an increase in taxes of 3.1%. And that roughly figured came to up to about 342,000 in additional revenue for the county. Interest is going like gangbusters right now. We've never earned as much interest as we have ever this year. This year was over $1 million. Last year it was 700 and something. But I don't know what the future entails come next year either with a change in
Yes.
leadership. So
It'll get better.
So let's hope. So that is a very hard question for me to answer, what our number is, our target number.
Sure.
I guess I would say I would feel comfortable around 100,000.
Good.
Because we still have plenty of fund balance left.
Do I need to add these two numbers?
Nope.
Just the orange.
Yep.
It's just the fact.
Orange is like the grand total, yeah. Yep.
So you're recommending getting just everybody up to the 2025 average and calling it a day?
Not necessarily. I
The
mean,
other one's just a little over 100.
from what I was told, that maybe some people would get a number out of this column and some people get a number out of that column and this. So I'm leaving that up to you.
The percentage thing, when it was brought up at the last meeting, I guess I personally thought of that the wrong way. I thought that sounded like a good idea. But then the more I thought about it, that it's exactly opposite what I was trying to accomplish, because someone at the top of the wage mark, a percentage means a whole lot more. 1% means a whole lot more to them than it does someone at the bottom.
Sure.
So my initial thought was sort of closing that gap a little bit. Everybody on the food chain sees a bump of kind of about the same total dollars that, everyone sort of, here's the average, get them to the average, and then $2,000 more than the average, whether you're at the bottom or you're at the top. But everyone in Montcalm County basically making $2,000 more than what the averages are, not a percentage that someone at the top's making 5,000 more than the average and someone at the bottom end is only making, you know what I mean? So but I'm not married to that idea either. I'm just personally, that's what I
I
was.
think one of the considerations we have to take also is what, I mean, tenure of employment, I think it has to be a factor as well. I mean, if you've got somebody that's got 30 years worth of time into the county, that should look different than somebody that has 2 years in.
And Brendan and I had that conversation because some of the argument in doing some of these elected official or department adjustments in the past is, well, particularly the elected officials, well, what if they don't run next, or what if you get a new one and then the wage is too high? So maybe that scale, most everybody else in the county works off a scale. Maybe it's the same thing. There's some incentive for 5 years or 10 years of service, and then they're at a different scale.
I like that because then when we, I mean, in the event that we hire, say we've got well, use a clerk, for example, been with us for 28 years. When she doesn't run anymore, we're going to have a brand new clerk. And that should not be, they're not coming in with 30 years of experience and they shouldn't be compensated for like somebody who's, that we need to give them a scale to want to climb, you know?
I think we can achieve that in their stipend, like a scale within the stipend.
Okay.
I don't know if we can have a scale for their base salary, but I think we could probably do it in the stipend amount.
Well, could we put into, I'm sorry, Charlie. I didn't
no,
interrupt.
you're speaking.
Could we put in something, I mean, how would you put that into a stipend for time served? How would that even look like?
I don't know, good question. That's something you guys got to determine.
So with this study, we took the people that are in these positions at their current rate and compared them.
So top of the scale. All
Top
I'm
of the
looking at is
scale.
top of the scale.
Okay,
So
okay.
if someone's not topped out yet, they might receive that, but it's going to be down here in the lower part of the scale.
Okay.
Do we know if these comps that we did that include stipends that those counties had as well, or was
There
that?
was only one county that indicated they had a stipend for their clerk because she handled the circuit court clerk office. And I think they gave her $2,000 for that duty as well.
So if we chose to do this, it's 114,000.
Mm-hmm.
That guarantees us that all of the employees are at least 1% higher than all of our comparable averages. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, of the comparable average, yeah. I'd have to look back at the ones that we may have some that came off that because they're already over.
Right.
And they
But the
might-
minimum would
Yeah,
be
the
their
minimum.
1% over the comparable average.
And I think there are some we need to look at.
Right.
You know, like, who was it? The prosecuting attorneys. They got rather large ones. Right in the middle of that first page, you'll see some of the assistant prosecutor one, an 11,000, a 12,000, a 13, and a 14,000 increase. Prosecutor 2, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, those are all new people. Or gonna be probably.
Yeah, I guess my only
So-
thing is we still got to attract them though.
Yeah. So I think it's something you probably need to go and delve into it or yeah, just see what you think, what you want to do. I know Pat had mentioned last time if everyone got a 3,000 to 5,000 and we, deemed a 3 or a 5 or a 4 for different ones. That's why I used kind of round figures in those columns instead of true percentages, just so that would be easier to do.
So some of these positions are hourly as well, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more difficult when, like Chairman Carr was saying, if you're wanting to give somebody a $3,000 increase, well, for somebody that's only working part-time, how does that work?
I might be wrong in my analysis, but I kind of came up with about 50 cents for every $1,000.
Yeah.
80
1,040,
hours in
yeah.
a year. And I was just roughing it that every 50 cent you gave an hourly employee amounted to about $1,000, roughly. Here more than that.
But that would be based on a 40-hour work week, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any part-timers on here other than a kennel attendant.
But again, if you're doing the 50 cent an hour thing, trying to get to that logic,
Yeah.
it would
hold.
still track
It would
with
hold,
part-time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like for my wage, the $6,000 stipend is built into that. That's not my base wage.
Right.
My
Correct.
base wage is $6,000 less. If I were to stop doing election programming, that wage goes down. I no longer get that stipend.
Right.
And
Right.
if I'm replaced, that individual wouldn't get the stipend unless they did the programming. So I'm not sure that these are actually correct comparables because it's not at 75, it's at 69.
Well, that's a half a dozen, 1/6 of another. I mean, you can argue it both ways. I mean, it's still your salary. It's your salary. That's what you get paid every year, and that's what your W-2 is. That's why I said with if we're gonna set some sort of a range for longevity, or I don't like using that word,
Tenure.
tenure, there you go. We would do it in the
Much more
stipend area
palatable.
instead. But
I think the Register of Deeds is in a similar boat as far as that goes. And so I do think that although I think this is a really good start, and I think there may be a few positions that may be outliers that we have to talk about. I personally would kind of like to start with this 1%. I mean, that means we're at least 1% higher than our comparables averages. And so that's saying that we are overall paying a little bit better than our comparables, and it keeps us in the dollar amount that Brenda would like to stay within for these raises. But I don't think that this encompasses every position 100%.
I don't
There may
either.
be
I don't either.
a few conversations that need to take place with some separate of the wage study.
I think that I agree with Charlie. The 1% gets us in the right direction, but I can think of a handful of positions that I don't feel like that's appropriate or enough. And I mean,
right, and I was
Yeah.
just getting up to the averages.
Yeah.
So like I was not
No.
injecting my
yeah,
feeling, or because that
No,
would have looked
no.
different if I had injected my feeling in my opinion. I'm just telling you that right now. So
understand.
So if we wanted to study this a little further, this first or the middle green column is bringing everyone up to the average of the comparable counties.
Yep.
And so using yours again is currently 126 or 129.
mine will be 126 at the first of the year. That's what's been approved already in the budget process.
The gray, so
The gray in the middle, yep.
is what's the 129 in the first green column?
That's the average as of the first of the year.
Not Montcalm County, but the average.
Yep, the average on
So yours will
14.
be, yours will be 126. And if we approve the bringing them up to average, it's the 3,500 to bring you up to the 129.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, am I
Mhm.
looking at it right?
Yep.
Is the deputy register of deeds position missing?
Yes, because she already makes more than the purple column.
Gotcha. Okay,
So I only put positions on there that made under.
thank you.
Where's your register?
So like where you see a department, it's just a yellow band.
Mhm.
That I took them out altogether because everyone in that department
I don't see it.
made over that purple column average, or for various other reasons. Maybe they got a very generous adjustment this past spring. When we reworked the wage scale. Like district court, I took Denny McGurl out because we just approved a wage scale for him in October. So a new wage scale, so I took him out.
I know they're expensive, but are we considering a professional wage study just to get it neutral, third party? Are we paying them at the right rate now to be giving them a bump from? I
I
appreciate
would
what
have
you've
loved
done.
you to done that.
This is pretty good.
The one we paid for in the past looked just like this. And the one we paid for in the past looked just like this in
How long
the
ago was that?
20 years.
It's a long time ago.
But the work starts once you get that, just like right now, because then we've got to decide and live and die by this study. There's already there's already employees in the county that make more than what this shows that aren't going to get anything.
Other than
And
their 3%.
other than their 3%. But the object of this, when it was first discussed, was trying to bring those offices that fall below the surrounding county. And there again, there's an argument to start with. What are the comparable counties? So none of the process is perfect.
Right.
And in case you didn't know, not everyone in the county is going to be happy with what we decide here.
No, not everybody.
And we
Somebody
can-
will be upset.
We can go back and forth for a year trying to adjust and find the perfect solution. But if we're just taking some approach at trying to raise the bar, knowing that it's not perfect and knowing that that's not the end of the discussion, there'll be another wage cycle starting this summer for next year's budget, but taking some reference, some point in time and trying to do something about it is my goal, I guess. And actually the child care fund is perfect timing for this discussion to me, because that is exactly the reason that these have fallen behind. Because anytime we've ever discussed it, there's some bomb dropped on us that we've got absolutely no control over, just like the child care fund is again right now. But there were times when we paid over $1 million a year in the child care fund and we survived. And we've been paying what? 300, 600?
600, yeah.
So goes back up. It isn't fun. It isn't the place that anybody wants to have to spend that kind of money, but it's no reason to tell the long tenured employees in the county that they're not deserving of what the job market says. So I don't think.
Is this anything that, like to your committee idea earlier, is this anything that you guys would be interested in, put a small committee together to come
think
up
that's a
with
good idea.
acceptable?
I think it's a good idea. Wages are never going to be perfect, and no one's going to ever think they're perfect. But for me, as a commissioner, I feel really good if I can rationalize that our people are getting more than their comparable average. Everybody. Now, some people are going to be getting more than that because some people are on this list because they're already making more than 1% of their comparables. And I know we have some positions that don't fit neatly into some of their comparables. And I think we need to take those on a individual basis.
Yes.
But I think that this is a great place to start, and it makes me feel good if we can come to some agreement, maybe not tonight, but in the near future, that we agree on one of these for the bulk of our people.
Can we name this committee the Finance Committee? And then the one for,
Finance and personnel.
yeah, and then the one for hiring and firing, we can do physical resources or whatever. I mean, we're falling right back into, let's get a committee together. It's fine. That's great. But, how long are we going to kick this down the road? I guess. I mean, if we're committed to keeping our employees and making them happy, let's make a choice. Let's make a decision. I mean, we can beat this thing to death and drag it into next July if we want, and then just work it into the budgets. But
I think though that I think that we could act pretty quickly. This is a committee that if we could put something together really, really quickly. And I don't think it would take more than a few hours of a few of us sitting down and getting some group think. Cause I think we're all after the same thing. And I think that we are all pretty close, but I think we're all afraid to say what we think sitting around here right now without some frame of reference from some of our constituents or from some of our others. So for our peers. Huh?
Charlie Blaine.
Right.
Can we have it done in 3 weeks?
Heck yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Who wants to be next?
Commissioner Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we make a committee of no more than 3 commissioners to look at the wage study and make recommendations to the increases.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to form another committee of not more than 3 commissioners
Sure.
to look at the wage study information and make recommendations to the full board on the increases. Discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Peterson.
who's going to be on the committee?
Chairman.
Was the motion for me to pick a committee? Or
It was just to form the committee.
form a
Form a committee.
I don't know.
Okay.
What do you think?
I would volunteer to be on that.
Who made the motion? Was it your motion? So the motion now is you and who else?
I would love to be on it.
You would what?
I would love to be on it.
Okay. Okay.
There's
I'll
two.
be on it. I'll be on it too.
Painter, Murray, and Peterson. Okay. Discussion. Someone said a minute ago, nobody's willing to spit out what they've got in mind. I'm willing to. I'll tell you what I had if you're interested.
Sure.
So I think there's some caveats. So my proposal was similar, bring all those people that aren't to the average, up to the average,
Mhm.
plus, let me think back if I did 2,000 or 3,000. I think I did 2,000. So every position is $2,000 more than the average if you're below the average. Capped at 5,000. So nobody gets more than a 5,000 bump in this cycle.
Okay.
So when you go down through that, just for easy looking, the controller is at the full 5. Her second in command is the 3,000. The equalization director is 4 and her second in command is 5,000. Remembering that all these are trying to get $2,000 more than average. The maintenance director is 5 and second in command is 1,000. The Veterans Affairs director is already over. Second in command is 3,000 and so on. So that's my methodology with some caveats then. I believe that the current wages of our treasurer, clerk, and register of deeds, drain commission in the past have all been set similarly. Those are somewhat similar in what the average shows, although the clerk would argue, as well as I think all those other officials probably argue for an increased responsibility in their office. There clearly is an increased responsibility in the clerk's office with the election
Yes.
legislation.
Yes.
But, so I had a $5,000 bump in every one of those and every one of their second in commands, with the exception of the register of deeds. I've got a question mark because her second in command in theory is sort of a abstract or deputy kind of a two office thing rolled into one. So that's one that needs a little more discussion than what I've got laid out. And then I think the jail administrator is a little bit of a caveat because his counterpart, you could argue the lieutenant, is in the union, has a strong union presence year after year after year. He's kind of out there in no man's land. He's probably third in command. I don't know how the sheriff views that, but I think you could make the argument that he needs to pull closer to what the undersheriff is. So out of my $5,000 cap, I've allocated between 6 and 8 there because of the nuance of what that job title is and where he's kind of trapped outside the union. The prosecutor's office, those positions are all about a 5,000. They max out at the 5. The public defender is over, but is administrative is 3, but some question mark with the, like how that relates to other departments' deputies. I think we've got to be respectful of that. If given that person 3 puts them more than like the clerk or the treasurer's deputy, then that needs to be sort of part of the equation in my mind. Friend of the court, those positions I had just a question mark on all those because of where they're at. So that's kind of my methodology, just based on just the raw numbers of trying to get everyone to the average and a couple $1,000s above the average.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
you lost me on page 3, line 24,
Which is,
and I don't know where that is either.
well, the concept is everyone that's under gets 2,000, gets to a bump to being $2,000 higher than the average of the comparable counties with a $5,000 cap. So if someone needs more than $5,000 to get to 2,000 more than the average, it's going to take more than 1 year to get them there.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that probably gets us right around that 100,000, it looks like.
That's gonna
It
be
was
close.
about 115 if I totaled it up right.
I think that's a good place to start. You know, I think one thing to keep in mind is the committee will come back with a recommendation, so we'll all get to weigh in on what they come up with.
Yeah.
And tweak it.
So the motion on the floor, if there's no other discussion, is to appoint a committee of Murray, Painter, and Peterson to make recommendation to the full board on the wage study. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carried. Where are we? That ends old business, public comments.
We turned in.
Could you come up here, please, and state your name and address for us, for the record?
Name is Kim Hartman, and we turned in our address, you want the address? We live at 511 Hazel Road, Ionia County.
Okay.
We own a farm up here in Montcalm County
Okay,
by McBride in Bay Township and in home too, but we turned in paperwork Friday for the PA 116 on one parcel that was left off. Apparently, when my elderly father had last re-enrolled in the PA 116.
okay,
So when we purchased the farm to let them live out their life there, my 94-year-old mother is still there up on Neff Road. We were under the understanding it would be grandfathered, the whole farm would be grandfathered over to us. And unfortunately, it's been a long haul, because it got taken out of agriculture by the assessor's kid, then I went to a review, got put back into agriculture. Then it's been a few years of getting the PA 116 back into our name. And we just found out this last year that the one parcel up by Neff Road in Lake Montcalm is left out of that. My dad either through his age and stuff neglected to put that parcel on there, because there's 3 parcels in Dane Township, but that one is left off. So we went through the land office in Lansing and filled out the paperwork and turned that in Friday.
Okay.
So just as a follow-up, she filed it with my office Friday. There's a process.
Yep.
It has to be sent to the West Michigan Regional Planning Commission. Has to be sent to the Conservation District. Both were sent out today. We've already got a response from the West Michigan Regional Planning Commission. We have 45 days to act. The Conservation District will meet before your December meeting. So their application will be before you in December.
Okay, so come back in December.
You won't even need to come back. It'll be approved, and then I'll just be able to send it on for you.
Yeah, when we bought it, everybody said, oh, you're the daughter, it'll just be grandfathered over to you. And this has just been one long haul.
Unless you really enjoy coming for the meeting, I wouldn't come back.
I mean, we are fun.
I got you.
I took my husband off from the farm and told me, I'm not going by myself.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, we just want the whole thing, safeguarded at the PA 116.
Yeah.
And the 10 up at home is mostly swamp, so that's the new point. Alrighty, well, thank you so much.
You bet.
Any other public comments?
I move to adjourn.
It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
What?
You gotta leave right away.
We got.
There's so many people here for.